Hi there! In this video, we show how to install a pair of Editron electric metering pumps, or eMPs, for the Neogen 2-part water treatment program. This video applies to both Neogen systems. It's best to work in a safe and clean area. Cover up any open chemical buckets to make sure you don't lose any parts. The Editron eMP box includes an eMP metering pump, mounting bracket, screw and wall anchor kit, quick start guide, operating manual, and tubing kit. The tubing kit includes injection valve, foot filter, 6.5 feet of rigid polyethylene discharge tubing, and 13 feet of clear, flexible PVC tubing for suction and bleed off. Other items you will need: a Phillips head screwdriver and cutters that can cut through hard plastic, thread seal tape, Neogen mixing tea, which are sold separately. To begin, grab the Neogen mixing tea. Take the thread seal tape and wrap it around the threads of the injection valve, either 3/8 or 1/2 inch. Install the Neogen mixing tea into the water line. The Neogen mixing tea is composed of 2 pieces, the tea and injection valve. It is important to hold the Neogen mixing tea at the directed position when screwing the valve into the water line. Next, grab the mounting bracket and screw and wall anchor kit from the pump box. Secure the mounting bracket to the wall using the kit. Make sure that the arrow on the mounting bracket is pointed up. Slide the eMP onto the mounting bracket. Do not plug the eMP into the power supply until installation is complete. Open the tubing kit and take out the injection valve. Remove the tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Set these items aside and be careful not to lose them. Make sure you do not lose the O-ring underneath the nozzle on top of the injection valve. Take the thread seal tape and wrap it around the 1/2 inch thread of the injection valve. Insert the injection valve into the left inlet of the Neogen mixing tea. Next, grab the rigid polyethylene discharge tubing from the tubing kit. Measure the distance from the discharge valve on the pump head to the injection valve on the Neogen mixing tea and cut the tube to length. Be careful not to cut it too short to avoid tension. If the tubing is too snug, the tubing connection will come loose and produce a leak. Slide one end of the discharge tubing through the outside opening of the tube nut. Slide the collar onto the tube and make sure the collar's crown is pointing away from the tube nut. Grab the nozzle and insert the pointed end into the opening of the tube. Push the collar and nozzle together as close as possible. Attach the tube and tubing connections onto the injection valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross thread or over tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Locate the discharge valve at the top of the pump head. Remove the tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Make sure not to lose the O-ring underneath the nozzle sitting on the discharge valve. Slide the tubing connections onto the open end of the discharge tubing in the correct orientation. Attach the tube and tubing connections onto the discharge valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross thread or over tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Remove the clear PVC suction tubing from the tubing kit and set aside. Locate the suction valve at the bottom of the pump head. Remove the tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Make sure not to lose the O-ring sitting below the suction valve. Slide the tubing connections onto the one end of the suction tubing in the correct orientation. Attach the tube and tubing connections onto the suction valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross thread or over tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Next, using the cutters, cut the PVC suction tubing so that the foot filter comfortably sits in the chemical bucket in a vertical position. Make sure to cut the tubing so that the foot filter has room to sit 2 inches off the bottom of the stock tank. Grab the foot filter from the tubing kit and remove its tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Be careful not to lose the O-ring sitting below the nozzle on the top of the foot filter. Slide the tubing connections onto the open end of the suction tubing in their correct orientation. Let the PVC suction tubing, along with the tube nut, collar, and nozzle, hang from the pump head. Grab the foot filter and shake it back and forth. You should hear the ceramic ball moving freely inside. Grab the PVC suction tubing and tubing connections hanging down from the pump head. Attach it to the foot filter by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross thread or over tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Place the foot filter into the chemical bucket or stock tank, ensuring that the pump will draw chemistry once you begin operation. Take the remainder of the clear, flexible PVC tubing and locate the air bleed barb on the upper left section of the pump head. Slide one end of the PVC tubing over the barb. Using the cutters, cut the tube so the tube is long enough for the chemical bleed-off to go back into the bucket or stock tank while priming. Repeat these instructions to install your second pump. Now that your second pump is installed, it is time to connect your pumps to the water meter. Grab the eMP and water meter lead wires. Connect one wire from each pump that are the same color with one of the water meter lead wires. Now connect the rest of the remaining wires together. After the wires are secured, both pumps should now be ready to connect to the power supply. We hope this video has been helpful with the installation of your electric metering pumps for your Neogen 2-part water treatment program. Thanks for watching.